I'll be talking about the edge, but then I'm going to bring on more interesting speakers up here with me who are going to describe to you what they're doing and as it pertains to what's happening at the edge. Okay, the standard disclaimer, and all right. So I think one of the things that we've discovered in deploying the edge is that when you look at what's happening at the edge, really one of the places where the horizontal infrastructure is coming in place is edge AI. So this is what's happening at the edge, and as it pertains to a new class of applications that are being deployed not just in centralized data centers, but also being deployed all the way out at where business is conducted by different vertically oriented industries. Now, it used to be that the infrastructure itself had to be vertically oriented, but because of what's happening in AI, specifically edge AI, we have the beginnings of a horizontal stack that we are putting in place, and that horizontal stack is going to drive a lot of the innovation that you folks will be putting into your systems, whether they are in healthcare or manufacturing or retail, oil and gas, and all the ones that you've seen here as examples. So this is AI in transportation. And what you're seeing here is different applications that people are deploying in these different types of edge locations. So the first conclusion of this is actually AI is distributed. It's not just the centrally located LLMs that are being trained that you see. The second piece of this is AI is, in fact, everywhere. When you look at the innovation that is happening just in the generative AI space, not a week goes by when we don't hear of another foundation model. Now, these foundation models, they started off by being very large, 500 million, trillion parameters, but now the foundation models are coming down in size. And you have models that are 4 billion parameters and sometimes even less. And in specific instances, if they are fine-tuned or pre-trained and then kept updated through processes like RAG, then those models are capable of being deployed all the way at the edge of the enterprise. And the reason why that is very important is because the data that is being generated comes primarily from the endpoints of the enterprise based on vertical. So some verticals, of course, are very centrally located and the data is generated in data centers. But in most cases, like the one that we were just describing in the general session, a retail store. So retail operations tend to be highly distributed and lots of data is being generated. So the question that I'm asking here is, are you ready? Now, I mean this sort of somewhat facetiously, but even if you take a look just at the networking stack that is being deployed, right? So when you're of course familiar with VeloCloud and SD-WAN and the other flavors of networking that are being deployed everywhere, we have about 500,000 of these devices deployed and we collect about 5 trillion data points. Again, I mentioned this in the general session. What that allows us to do is we identify those applications. In fact, we identify up to 5,000 applications. And now we're identifying AI applications. And what we're finding is very interesting, that the network traffic from the AI applications looks different from the traffic from the non-AI apps. For one thing, since there's so much data being generated from the edge, it's a lot more asymmetrical, but in the other direction. There's a lot of traffic that is going upstream. That traffic is higher in volume. That traffic is multimodal, not just text-based. So there's a lot of video and all that going up as well. 1 million tokens, which is kind of the parameter that people use to compare the cost of these large language and small language models. 1 million tokens is about 1 hour of video that you can stream up, and then you can ask the generative AI solution to search for 5 seconds of interest for you. So if you imagine that you're walking around with a phone in a retail store and you're trying to take a video and trying to check things about what you're seeing, that's a lot of data being generated from the edge. So your getting ready is getting the network ready that connects all these edges together to the centralized locations, but also it is getting ready to deploy the workloads at the edges themselves. Because what you're seeing today is training once and then inferencing many times. That model is changing very, very rapidly. With agents coming in, and this is the 50% statistics of data being generated outside of the data centers, especially with AI agents coming in, there's going to be a lot of peer-to-peer traffic as well. So your getting ready involves the network, setting up the right network, which can identify the apps, can abstract out the underlay, regardless of whether it's 5G or even satellite, as you bring in wired infrastructure, mix and match that so that you identify the, then run it at the best possible performance and resiliency on that infrastructure, and then get workloads to be deployed at the edge, including these newer foundational models that are purpose-built, that are small, and that you can fine-tune using either chain of thought or RAG or any one of these mechanisms that are becoming a lot more popular right now. So what we want to talk about in this session is really this is the main topic. It's edge AI. And that, just to define it, it's not the AI that's running back in the data center, large language models. It's really the AI that is distributed, that is everywhere. And what do you need to get that AI to work, not just today, but in the long term, as more and more innovation happens, because we are at the very early stage of getting this done. So now, instead of just hearing about what VMware and Broadcom is doing, I thought it'll be much more interesting for you folks to hear about everything that's happening from the startup community, so what's going on with funding and startups, all the way to what's happening with the large-scale telcos and how are they thinking of this, what is going on with telcos, and then we have a smaller scale telco with enterprise in the middle as well. So let me start off first by calling Lou to join me on stage over here. So I met Lou just a month or so ago, was it? Maybe a couple of months ago in New York City, and I was very impressed by what she's doing. She's actually the founder and managing partner of Fusion Fund, which is a small fund that invests in small startups. But I was impressed, and I thought, why don't I invite Lou to join me here? So this is not sales pitch of any kind. It's not like she's using VMware right now. Maybe she will in the future. But I think she has lots of interesting things to say. So Lou, why don't you join me on board? And please give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Tiffany. So let's start off by you describing, Lou, what do you do? What's the fund that you've set up, and what are the kinds of startups that you're investing in?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm the founder managing partner of Fusion Fund. So since 2015, what we've been focusing on is, as Sanjay said, supporting early stage startup. And the sector is healthcare, enterprise AI, especially including AI infrastructure and industry automation. So you can tell most of the company we work with are really focused on bringing cutting edge technology to the industry and the large enterprise to make sure there's a good integration and also really improve the productivity and take the industry to go together for the innovation. And specific for Edge AI, I did research originally when I was a material scientist, research at Stanford on edge computing. And since 2018, we've been focusing on edge computing investment since then. And of course, edge computing initially as an infrastructure technology. Now the future of AI is really AI on the edge. So I'm very glad to join in the discussion today and also really share the interesting company we're seeing contributing to the future of Edge AI. Two quick points I really want to make based on what Sanjay just mentioned early on. First, I heard from not only just one company, lots of the large tech companies who are training models used to talk about most of the costs is on the model training. Now more costs is moving over to inference. And more discussions about how to deploy in the single devices in order to solve this major challenge of the AI in terms of data privacy and also energy consumption, which we could discuss later. Another thing is I talk with many founders. We have this interesting concept. When we think about internet or the cloud services, the main theme is moving data around. But what is the purpose of AI? It's actually moving compute around. I will leave it there to start.
Very good, very good. Excellent. That's a very good insight. So can you tell us, when you look at a founder that comes in from a startup and is looking for investment from Fusion Fund, what is your criteria to judge whether you should invest or not? First in general, and then I'll ask you specifically about Edge AI.
Yeah. So I think early stage startup, people always thought, okay, this is very little thing you could do due diligence on. Because there are very little financial data, there's more thing we need to consider from the market side, technology, operation, eventually the competitive landscape and the exit side. Couple things I really want to highlight, especially the number one thing is market size and market timing. When we talk about market size, it's easy to understand. It has to be big enough for VC to consider invest. But market timing is more important, especially for edge computing. When the industry is ready to deploy this edge computing technology, when this industry is ready to integrate with AI, that's the right timing for startup to start their journey. AI is not a new concept for us. It's been there for 40 years, and why now? It's because the industry is ready. As Sanjay mentioned, we have tons of the sensor in the industry collecting tons of the data, huge amount of high quality data. That's the foundation of apply AI. That's when we see the true value and ROI of the AI start to push for innovation. Besides that, another thing I want to highlight is how we look at technology. I was a technologist. I was a former entrepreneur. So we always heard people talk about, oh, we need the best technology to do innovation. But does industry really need the best? Our industry needs better, faster, cheaper. Not only better, faster, but also cheaper. The cost of technology needs to be low, and also the cost of integration of the technology needs to be low. When you want your customer to use your tech, you could not expect the customer upgrade their whole infrastructure to be ready for AI.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Now, can you give us a flavor of the kinds of investments specifically in edge AI and maybe highlight a few of the companies that you have invested in?
Yeah, happy to. So there's so many different types of innovation happening in edge AI right now. First, fundamentally, related to edge AI, there's the edge computing chip are doing pretty well in the industry already. There are also companies focused on purely software solutions. Serverless edge means they were able to enable your existing sensor become a smart device, be able to have edge AI capability. And meanwhile, we're doing investment into lots of the vertical application for industry like healthcare, financial, insurance industry. They not only have huge amount of data, they are also highly regulated industry. So when they talk about the deploying AI, the number one thing is not whether it's better, faster, it's whether it's secure. Having the data on the local device, on the edge devices, be able to run the data, give the response using AI on the local device without uploading everything to the cloud, already solve part of their concern. Another thing is when we see the AI deployment for this real industry, they really care about, okay, what is the energy consumption? What is the ROI of the AI implementation? When you have the edge AI capability, not only just latency issue potentially got solved, you also don't need to transfer so much data, which is going to consume lots of energy as well. What is the biggest challenge right now for AI? GPU consumption, energy consumption, privacy, and also latency. And you can see edge AI is contributing to every single layer of the AI infrastructure. And then also beyond that, how we really enable edge AI to be successful. As Sanjay mentioned, we need a smaller model. For the industry vertical application, we're seeing companies build up the industry-specific small model, less than 7 billion token, 6 billion token. You could optimize the model with industry high-quality data. You don't need a generic large model. Smaller model means cheaper and also less energy consumption. Another thing is with lots of open source community contribution. For example, one of our companies recently, they have this new model, open source, you could check it out, less than 1 billion token. A Gen AI model could run on a Raspberry Pi. You all know Raspberry Pi. Very limited power consumption, power capability, and the GPU consumption. Be able to run this AI model at a similar performance as GPT-4. This is quite recent. This is early this year, which also means things are evolving very fast. So in the future, when we talk about edge AI, we not necessarily need to have a very comprehensive edge devices to support AI. You may have a Raspberry Pi. You have AI on top of it. Meanwhile, we are also, with other speakers, we're talking about other industries are faster evolving. One thing is robotics. Humanoid robotics become very popular, but the major challenge is latency. You don't want to wait for 5 seconds to say, hi, how are you? So that's also the edge AI capability requirement. And another very exciting industry is the space industry. With the successful launch of a Starship, in the future, the launching cost of the satellite could be extremely low, could be like 30K, 20K per satellite. Imagine how much data we could collect. When we collect tons of data with each satellite in the space, that's also edge devices could deploy AI.
Excellent. Wow, you've given us really a lot to think about. Any parting thoughts for this group over here? Because we've got people from manufacturing, from retail, we've got people from healthcare. We, of course, have people from the telecom space as well, people from financial services. Anything that you would like to say to them in parting about the overall space of edge AI that you are investing in?
Yeah, so I think we talk a lot about the technology, edge computing, AI capability, but essentially the major part of an optimized AI model and also make edge AI very efficient and effective is the quality of the data. And who owns the data? Unfortunately, it's not the startup. Probably unfortunate for us, right? They don't own the data, and you guys own the data. But meanwhile, if you try to do everything yourself, sometimes it's not the most efficient way. So there's tons of startups focusing on vertical solution, focus on each different industry, each industry application, be able to leverage the high quality industry data, make their model better, and meanwhile come back to serve you. I think for internet, people always have this perception of Silicon Valley coming to try to disrupt everyone. That's not the case for AI anymore. AI is about the enablement and also collaboration. So for us, we also work with Sanjay, work with other large corporate, try to facilitate more collaboration between smaller startup and large corporate. Eventually, we're going to create a much bigger market opportunity.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Lou. Thanks
you
for joining us. And Lou will be around. Lou will be around after the session as well, in case you want to have a further dialogue and have more to talk about. So from an industry standpoint, we have information that I'm sure you're pretty familiar with. We have on the show floor a small manufacturing setup. In fact, manufacturing is one of those areas with the edge compute stack that we're getting into in a lot of detail. Even the last time I'd spoken about the progress we are making with German auto manufacturers. We've expanded that now. We have folks that we're dealing with in Japan, certainly in the United States as well, both discrete and process manufacturing, healthcare, retail. And then where we started off really was with telecom. Telecom was where, at least from a business perspective, we actually solved some of the problems about how do you get scale out at the edge and then take those learnings and apply them to the other verticals that are out there. One difference, though, between telecom and manufacturing as an example, when you look at a telecom cell site, there's typically no moving part. But when you go to one of those factory automation floors, everything is moving. So safety and compliance are critically important. So here's how we've gone about getting AI at the edge to be solved with our platforms. And it's a very simple diagram. It shows that the bottom layer is the network, and we have our solution for telco cloud platform, and the top layer is the edge compute stack. Both of these layers are really put in there to simplify the installation, configuration, operations, and maintenance of workloads. Now, the workload could be anything. It could be the network function that runs a RAN. It could be what runs your robot on the manufacturing floor. It could be what's running for your clinics, or could be something that is deployed as an SLM in your retail store. Now, what's in the middle, this kind of layer in the middle is VeloCloud. And the reason that is there is not just for your branch office connectivity, but VeloCloud understands 5,000 applications that run on top of it, and then can abstract out all the complexity of the underlay. And it does that today by measuring the underlay, but what's coming in the future is that we get explicit hints from the underlay, and then we can program the underlay. And all of this is really important because you can have a conversation about AI in the data center without really referring to what's happening in the network, that is the wider network. But you cannot have a conversation about edge AI without the network that is running underneath, because all of these locations, devices are all connected to one another, and the network becomes an integral part of this. Now, some of you are fortunate enough to have cookies that were on your chair as you sat down. The reason the cookie is there is you can either blame me or thank me, or maybe you can thank Teresa because she encouraged me to do this. But so we think of this, very simple to remember these three layers as a cookie. Now, don't say Oreo, because once we put Oreo on the slide and Nabisco send us a legal letter saying you can't use Oreo. So don't use Oreo, it's just a cookie. And the top layer of the cookie is the edge compute stack, the bottom layer is our telco cloud platform, and the magic that happens in the middle is the intelligent overlay, which is VeloCloud. So now you know why you have cookies on your chairs there. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what's happening in the network and talk to two folks who are very experienced in this. One is a provider of VeloCloud and has gone in and we've had partnership with Mettel for a very long period of time. And then Mettel serves their end customers who are the enterprise. And they're going on this journey along with us. This is our what I called good, better, best story, which means that today what we do, let me just scroll back to this. Today what we do is we measure the underlay, but we are adding AI smarts to our algorithm, which is called dynamic multi-path optimization. We're adding AI smarts because these 5 trillion parameters that we get We've got to make sense of them so that we can recognize all the applications, AI or not, and then optimize how those applications run on the network. That's AI DMPO. And then getting hints from the underlay, explicit hints about how cell sites are running, makes for a much better network experience. And then finally, programming the underlay, which is also coming. And all of this can be, you can see this in one of our new devices that is coming out. This is a VeloCloud device, a 710 5G. May not make a lot of sense for you who haven't deployed VeloCloud, but suffice it to say that what this device does, it can converge different types of underlays together to give you that best experience, even satellite. Satellite wasn't a very popular underlay. It's only been in a couple of years or so that because of Starlink and other LEOSs that it has taken off. All right, with this then, I want to invite Ed Fox from Mettel and John from Fidelity Information Services on stage here, and they will have a conversation between them. Thank you so much for coming, John.
Thanks, Sandy.
And like I said, Ed's been a partner with us for many years. In fact, was one of those operators who trusted a small company with no presence at all. And here we are, 9 years or 10 years later, and standing up on stage with one of the biggest companies in the financial services space. So with that, I will let Eddie and John introduce yourselves, and then please have the discussion.
Okay. Since John's in the middle of the cookie, he can go first.
I'll start. All right. So John Pirate, I'm with Fidelity Information Systems, FIS for short. Just a little blurb on FIS. We're a global provider of financial services technology solutions. We're in 100 countries, and 95% of all financial institutions worldwide use our products. I'm a VP of Client Network Services, and in short, what I do is support the network service offerings that connect clients into our data centers and public cloud for FIS app and core banking platform consumption.
Thanks. So I'm Ed Fox. I'm CTO of Mettel. Mettel is a communication solutions provider. We provide our services globally. We provide a whole plethora of communication services from, believe it or not, still plain old telephone service, all the way up through being a global MVNO, as well as Sanjay said, we partnered with Velo close to 10 years ago at this point, and we saw the pains we were going through in trying to do multi-carrier MPLS networks, which was a value we provided to our customers, and then bringing on the over-the-top DMPO, which allowed us to transform and help our customers digitally transform their networks, and it's still going on, and it's such an amazing time in our industry right now. Lou had spoken to space communications, and Sanjay was asking us to talk a little bit about the most unsexy piece of the network, the access piece, and that part of our business has become all of a sudden very sexy with the coming of the LEO constellations, and we'll talk a little bit about how we use those access methods, because when we deploy, and John's one of our biggest customers and advocates today, we provide the full solution all the way from providing the gateways, the orchestrators, the access methods, whether that be wired or wireless or satellite communications, and kind of all put it together so folks like John can bring that to his customers.
That's awesome. So John, maybe you can tell us how you're deploying the Mettel solution in each of those locations, and then how do you provide a service to your customers?
Yeah, sure. So right now we've been doing this for about 5.5 years with the Velo solution. It's definitely evolved over time. We have a little over 3,500 edges across a few hundred customers. Well, let me just say this, because I think this is really important. One of the things that we're going to offer in Q4 of this year is our first XLA. So we have an SLA, always had since the inception of the service offering, but now we're at that point where we feel strongly that we can provide an XLA, essentially a customer experience agreement. We've been working with Mettel on this for a number of years. Mattel's been working with VMware. to capture, what we need to capture to be able to provide that XLA. But more than that, and it kind of gets into what you're asking, the reason why we're able to offer that is because we feel confident that we can take a network issue, and we have network issues all the time, and make that transparent to the user's experience, and that's the key. So it's not to say we're going to prevent network issues, but definitely we can make it transparent to the user experience, and we've been doing that for the past 5 years. From the SD-WAN engine to our service offering to the partnership, to the design, ensuring resiliency and diversity and all of that stuff combined, the self-healing attributes of Velo has allowed us to get to that point. And so that's a huge step for us. And I don't know of any other provider that's doing that. So we're excited about that. We, with our customers, 99.8%, almost all of our customers are 100% internet-based for circuit connectivity. So we use primarily the big four, DIA, dedicated internet access, which is a business-grade type service similar to MPLS from an SLA perspective. Broadband, which is more primarily consumer-based. They say there's some, you can get some business grade, but I don't put much trust in that. Satellite, which I'm really excited about, and we've deployed 12 dishes to one client in particular a month ago that went really well, and then fixed wireless access, which we've been doing for a while now. And all four of those circuit connectivity options, will mix and match depending on the situation. So if it's primary or alternate operations, the large data centers, we're usually going in with 2 DIAs and making sure they're LEC diverse and carrier diverse and so forth. If it's a small LPO or loan processing office, we're going in with could be a satellite with a wireless. If it's a typical branch, we're probably going in with a DIA and a broadband. And also it depends on what you can get in those areas. But one thing I wanted to say with regards to satellite, again, as I mentioned, I'm very excited about satellite. It just, to me, it just totally solves so many problems. I mean, broadband's just been a nightmare. You put it in your proposal, you go to sign off with the customer, they go and do the site survey, and half the time, there's construction costs, there's, you can't get the bandwidth they said you could get, all of that stuff. With satellite, you get on the computer, you can see right away whether you can get that, that signal, and, I've not found a spot where I can't yet. Very fast delivery. So, we can have it in within 2 to 3 weeks, probably sooner if it was, an emergency. The speeds are really good. We're getting 200 plus down and 20 plus up. The diversity is really good because we're going from wired to wired wireless. And overall the latency is exceptional. 45 milliseconds right now with, and obviously this is Elon Musk's Starlink, but I attended a conference in Scottsdale a month or so ago, and Starlink was there presenting, and I asked the question, are you going to do better on that latency? And the guy said, yeah, we're going to get it down to the mid-20s. He said that's the mandate from Elon, and really that's as low as they could possibly get, right? Because propagation delay from low orbit to Earth is not going to allow for any less than that. So that's pretty exciting. But anyway, that's why I'm so excited about satellite. I see it as one of our primary offerings, mixed in with DIA and fixed wireless.
Excellent, excellent. That was great. Thank you so much, John, across your 3,500 locations. So Eddie, maybe to close us out, can you tell us how you're incorporating satellite, and what does the advent of workloads at the edge mean to your business?
Yes, so a few comments on what John was saying first. If you think about how Lou was talking about how we get all this information from the edge and make those decisions at the edge, like you were alluding to, Sanjay, part of what John's doing with his customers and his XLA came from the ability to take from the VeloCloud edges back into the network and build a QoE and have a quality of experience for the end user. And that's really what came up with this XLA idea for FIS to provide to their clients. It was born out of QoE from your VCO. So that's edge to, to product really, right? So that continues within our organization. And I guess for fixed wireless access and satellite, as I mentioned, very excited about it, just like John is. And I'll use a technical term from Hot Tan this morning, like some of John's loan processing offices that are kind of in the middle of nowhere. If you can't get terrestrial connectivity, you're screwed, right? So I think that's given us a big ability to have this conversation now about starting to move AI to the edge. Lou talked about the Raspberry Pi, and I personally wouldn't want to manage thousands of Raspberry Pis, but the fact that we can move an SLM to the edge with the edge compute stack part of and managed with the network and having the smarts within the network and the hints, as you guys are calling it now, from the underlay, and knowing what that traffic looks like for AI is giving us the ability to very confidently provide SLAs to the likes of John as a customer and our other customers. I mean, we see it in the most outrageous verticals today in retail space. I'm thinking of one that sells a lot of, I don't know, it's farm material. And they have an AI that actually will look at license plates and determine people as they come in so that everyone knows who's walking in, so they have a community feel. And that's one that's going to fit right into this. We're talking to them about that whole edge AI, as well as we provide this service to one of the largest or the largest global diamond wholesaler and retailer. You've probably seen 10 of their commercials if you watch NFL on Sundays around Valentine's Day. They want AI at the edge to actually start to provide, during the pandemic, they went to a handheld like an iPad to be able to take care of their signature customers. And now when those folks come in, they want to provide them not only the inventory that's in the store, but everything that have under the sun, being the largest diamond holder in the world. So they want to be able to show what it looks like on them in the mirror. And that's another edge application that we're working with our customers. So I do think the pandemic kind of slowed us down a little bit on this edge. But to Lou's point earlier, I don't think industry was ready. I think we are ready now, and I think it's such an exciting time to be in where we are now.
Yep.
And super excited about where we're going.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you, Eddie, as always. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details of this slide, but I just want to say that this is an end-to-end system. It goes from the edge from one side all the way to the data center on the other, sometimes peer-to-peer. You have an integration with Symantec that's coming that you can make use of from an SSE standpoint, and of course the edge compute stack that you can deploy at all these locations. So what I would like to do next is invite Bill Chang. Now, Bill and I have known each other also for many years, one of the most dynamic speakers that I have found. And Bill has got an amazing repertoire of technologies and stuff that he manages. So I want to call Bill on, and he's going to talk to us about AI in general. He's doing some really exciting things with Digital Infra Co. So Bill, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to borrow the clicker.
Yes.
So I'm from Singtel. I'm the CEO of Singtel's Digital Infra Co. It's a hyper-growth unit that we set up. Many of you may think Singtel, it's, we've just announced a partnership, strategic partnership with VMware at MWC this year in February, and obviously, start of many good things to come. Let me just talk about, what we're doing with, if you think about Singtel Group, we're one of the largest telcos in the world. We have assets not just in Singapore, it says Singtel, Singapore Telecoms, but we actually own assets in some of the largest countries. In India, we own Airtel. In Indonesia, we have Telkomsel. That's the number one players in those markets. And then we've got, number one player in Philippines, Globe, number one in Thailand, number two in Australia. Number one in Thailand, it's AIS. Number two, it's Optus. And of course, Singtel. Totally, we have 776 million mobile subscribers. Every quarter, we add about 23 million mobile subscribers. That's the size of Australia. Every quarter, we add on to our group. And still facing that huge growth. And on top of, being a telecoms, we're a digital services and infrastructure company on the right, with all the assets from a digital bank to, digital service provider, NCS, with 12,000 people, the largest in Southeast Asia. And at the same time, we've got data centers. We are the largest data center. In fact, I was just sharing with some of the folks, we're building probably the world's largest AI-ready data center, about 200 megawatts in a few countries. What I mean by 200 megawatts of AI-ready data centers, these data centers run at 150 kilowatts per rack versus current generation of data centers that's running about 8 to 10 kilowatts per rack. And it's really ready to handle all these NVIDIA GB200s, which will take 150 kilowatts. So our data centers are liquid cooled, and we're going to sort of build up close to 200 megawatts of that to be ready for the AI revolution. Obviously, we're many technologies, is what Sanjay talked about. One of the few things that we do, it's in an area where, I'll talk about, in this slide, where we have patented a platform called Paragon, and it's at the heart of what we're doing in VMware over here. The genesis of this was back in 2018, I was just, having a dialogue, a strategic workshop with our board, and we were in the midst of signing off billions of dollars to build 5G networks. And Singapore prides itself being a country with what's called a standalone 5G network core. On top of the 4G, we got a standalone. So we're the first country to deploy that. And then there was discussions with, the CEOs. I led the enterprise arm, the B2B arm across the globe. And the discussions then was, what are we going to make the use of 5G? And my opening statement to the board was, 5G will be the last G that telcos will ever build, own, and operate if we cannot break out a connectivity commodity business. And, I was sharing the board from 3G to 4G to 5G, the ROIC of telcos have been dropping steadily because CAPEX have been going up dramatically and shelf life is reducing. And yet the telcos only learn one thing, it's about connectivity, whether it's voice and now data. And if we continue this, 5G will be the end game. And therefore, we had to change the game and understanding, we went through a series of dialogue and sharing as to who's disrupting the telco industry, hyperscalers, over-the-top players, and why, and the reason was, they are aggregators and orchestrators of this platform play, whereas telcos are product companies. And in order for us to thrive in a 5G environment, we will have to think like a hyperscaler first, and then change the whole business model of telcos. And so in 2018, I sort of described our strategy in building that, and the board signed off that, and essentially I led a team to build a software-defined unit comprising of the smartest engineers in the Bay Area, from around the globe, and assembled them. And we built what's called, in 2022, when we launched the first 5G aggregation and orchestration platform, codenamed Paragon. Essentially, think about this like an app store over the country's infrastructure, where the infrastructure could be 5G, 4G, fixed line, satellite comms, or it could be the public cloud regions that's in the country, or it could be the edge cloud that we deploy with our edge AWS Outpost or Azure Edge Stacks or Oracle Alloy, or now with NVIDIA that we're rolling out into our edge to bring AI all to the edge. And if you think about this infrastructure that we have, an app store that sits on top, and then northbound open APIs, Camara, TM Forum, and it plugs in all these apps to allow the activation of IoT devices through connect, compute, and AI, all at the edge or with SLAs and also at the public cloud capabilities. So we developed this platform. Lo and behold, there are 4 5G operators in Singapore. We launched this, and essentially in the next 2 years, we took 100% market share in Singapore for all 5G deployments. And whether it's factories, ports, whether it's going to public safety, healthcare, we're taking almost 100% of the market share. Only the folks who actually won were just buying 5G on the cheap. Our competitors were giving 5G. That's less than 1% they got then, right? And then other carriers came to us and they said, you know, we were struggling to sell 5G. We couldn't sell 5G because our 4G was great enough. And we saw what Singtel is doing. Could you license this platform to us? So, you know, since then, we took it to Thailand. And, you know, AIS starts winning 100% of what they have in Thailand for 5G deployments. And then Taiwan came, deploying that. And then followed by Spain, right? And MásMóvil, Taiwan with Chunghwa Telecom. And then with, you know, Indonesia. And finally, Malaysia. And we're talking about 20 telcos globally to deploy this. Essentially, the platform takes telcos from being a connectivity player to become an industry enabler of use cases, whether it's 5G, 4G, connect, compute at the edge and all that. And essentially, it monetizes beyond connectivity to monetizing at connectivity with, you know, all the edge compute, with all the AI stack that they bring to the edge. At the same time, also the applications, we take a cut of all the applications hosted on our marketplace. So, you know, it enlarges the wallet share of what telcos could get. And so we're now in the midst of rolling this out. Just 2 days ago, Hitachi, one of the big giants globally, has announced that they are going to deploy Paragon in a private network environment, starting from the US, and then going to Italy and going to Japan. And the problem they're trying to solve is, you know, the factories have different networks, have different, you know, sort of environments, some 5G, some Wi-Fi, and some of them fixed. And then they've got compute, and they've got, you know, the edge that they need to roll out with AI to help in the industrial use cases. And the chief growth officer, who's based out of New Jersey, Frank Anthony Sami, based in New Jersey, the chief growth officer said he couldn't roll out digitalization at speed and at scale. And he was looking for a platform, and he saw the telcos adopting this. And essentially, he went to test bid this, and he says, you know, in February this year in MWC, he's adopting this. And now they just announced on Monday they're rolling out globally, using that so that one platform to extract all the complexity of infrastructure and basically allows services to be stitched to this. And infrastructure could be connect, compute, and AI. And to stitch it so that they can now roll out homogeneously an environment with factories around the world so that they can really launch all the digitalization. And this was just announced on Monday. So, you know, it's essentially what we're doing, and working with VMware allows us to speed up this whole capability of the deployment of multi-tenanted environments with the telcos, and also single-tenanted. It's multi-clouds in all these environments, right? So I think it's a fantastic opportunity that we have, and a very strong partnership that VMware, and thanks Sanjay, the team.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
So with this, you've heard everything from edge AI and startups in the small from Blue. You've heard some actual deployments, one of the largest financial companies, 3,500 locations, through a partnership with Mettel, who started a long time ago to virtualize the underlay and build services on top, networking services. We didn't talk a lot about how the federal government is using Mettel, but one of their strongest verticals that Mettel is going after. And now with the advent of workloads at the edge, how edge AI is going to make that happen. And then finally, Bill, you know, visionary thinker, thinking way ahead in terms of what telcos will need, because all of us together who are serving telcos know that we're in this industry where they're losing out to the cloud providers. So how do we get this whole industry to come up, you know, literally from the bootstraps and be much more competitive? Because we cannot have a discussion about the edge without talking about the network underneath. So absolutely pleased to be in partnership with Bill and his vision, going out there and essentially conquering the world of telco with the Paragon platform. So I hope you folks got a good view overall of what's happening in this edge space. Edge AI is the thing to go forward with. Eat the cookies, buy some more Oreos, and make them happy. But just to cut to the chase, it's really a very simple 3-layered set of products that we're going about providing. And we want you folks out there, whether you're a telco or most likely you're an enterprise or a partner, take a bite out of the whole cookie. I'll leave with that. Thank you very much.